Welcome to this segment of DSU Inside Perspective. I'm Leah Dorsey, the guest host for this segment. Typically, the gentleman seated next to me, Carlos Holmes, is the host of this show. But today, we are going to interview him in his capacity as the foremost history leader of DSU. And we're going to talk to him about the tenure of Dr. Jerome Holland, who was the president of then Delaware State College from 1953 to 1960. Welcome, Carlos.
Thank you for having me on my show.
So can you tell us a little bit about Dr. Jerome Holland?
Well, Dr. Jerome Holland is so important. We're planning on installing a statue. We've hired an artist, and he's creating a statue of Dr. Holland, and that's how important he is to our history, because our very existence is the result of his leadership at this university.
And can you tell us about Dr. Jerome Holland before he became the president of Delaware State College?
Well, he went to Cornell University. He was the first African American on their football team in the 1930s. He went on to become a two-time All-American football player. He earned a bachelor's degree in sociology and a master's degree in sociology, and then went on and earned a PhD. He did a number of things before he came here in 1953, but before he came here, he was a research consultant for the Pew Memorial Foundation. And there was one day in January 1953, he was at a dinner in Wilmington, a Masonic dinner, and the governor of the state, Governor J. Caleb Boggs, was at this dinner, and they sat right next to each other. And they had a conversation, about Delaware State College, which was in a very troubling situation at that time. And Governor Boggs just knew this was his man. This could be the next president of Delaware State College, and that's basically what happened.
So what were the challenges facing Delaware State College, and what led him to really secure that position back then?
Well, Delaware State College in 1949 had lost its accreditation. That's a terrible blow for any institution of higher education. So you had a lot of people in the state of Delaware clamoring for Delaware State College to be closed down because of that. Enrollment had gone down. Our very existence was threatened, and this is what Dr. Holland was confronted with when he was offered the job. And you know, it's almost surprising that he even took the job. That there was so much going against Delaware State College at the time, but he was a very bold guy, and he really had a great confidence in his leadership ability. So he took the job, and you know, the rest is history.
With everything that was going on with Delaware State College, why do you think that Dr. Jerome Holland felt like he could take on this position and succeed in it?
Well, you know, I think that he really had a great confidence in his leadership ability. I also think that it was a great opportunity for him. I mean, what could get you on the mark to greatness in life? If you could come and you could turn an institution around that's facing possible closure, and get that institution turned around, which is basically what he did. I think he just felt like, you know, some people would be scared of such a opportunity, but no, he seized the moment. He grasped the opportunity to do this.
And what were the specific things that he did to turn around DSC?
Well, you know, the first thing he did was he got our business office straightened out. That was a mess. And he installed a guy by the name of H. Gordon Pinkett to be the business manager, and they kind of straightened out all the areas, purchasing, payable accounts, all the accounting practices of the office. And this was important because, quite frankly, Delaware State College had some bad credit going for itself at the time. It was not paying its bills on time. It had a terrible relationship with the business community. But more importantly, Jerome Holland had done a report that showed that the state of Delaware had not given Delaware State College the financial support that it should have had in those previous years of its existence. And it was a big reason why Delaware State College was in the position that it was in at the time. So, but we needed to show the state that we could manage the money that they would give us if they were to increase that. So it was important to get that business office together. He did his study of the college, And he basically told the state and the governor, if the state is going to continue giving us low levels of financial support, if the state is going to continue to just not be very consistent in the ways it helps us grow by giving us some construction money, then you might as well just close us down, because no institution can continue to exist that way. But if the state is willing to stand up to its obligations and do what it should be doing with respect to Delaware State College, this is what we need. It started clicking off the needs of the college. This carried great weight with Governor Caleb Boggs. And Caleb Boggs, he's kind of a hero in this story too, because he gave Dr. Jerome Holland the latitude to be able to turn this around. And so Dr. Holland began doing that. He got the business office, addressed, the issues in the business office addressed, and we got some money from the state, significant $2.45 million. And that resulted in the construction of Memorial Hall, the gymnasium, the construction of Grossley Hall, which was an administration building and a classroom building, Conwell Hall, a men's dormitory, Kent Apartments, which no longer exists, but it was a faculty apartment building. There was some Cape Cod faculty houses that were built along the same road where the president's house is. There was an addition built onto the library. So we got all that, and part of our problem with accreditation was having the appropriate infrastructure to do what we needed to do as a four-year institution of higher education. The state also increased its operating budget contribution to us. And that allowed us to do some things like we had a dean registrar at one point, and the dean registrar had the responsibility for student affairs, for the registrar's office, for the administration office. With more operation budget money, we were able to split up and create two offices, one for student affairs, the dean of students as it was called back in those days, and one for the dean admissions office and registrar's office, a separate office. And that's the kind of thing that increased funding. The state realized in the 1950, through Dr. Holland, that it had to be more diligent in its financial support of the institution. So Dr. Holland also established a general education program, another issue in our accreditation issues. He established that. He created a criteria for faculty rank and a system for faculty tenure. He was able, with the increase in operation budget money, to be able to give a modest increase to faculty salaries. He was able to open the first alumni office on campus. There's a lot of things that he was able to do. But the bottom line was, in 1957, we got our accreditation back. And on that count, we haven't looked back since. Every time it's been time for us to get our accreditation, we've gotten it reaffirmed with no problem at all. But it began with Jerome Holland. We would not exist as an institution today if it wasn't for the leadership of Jerome Holland. Many of us are convinced of that.
And finally, tell us how history judges Dr. Jerome Holland.
Well, certainly in terms of DSU history, we are, because he was our leader at the time. It took a special type of leadership. So he is considered by many to be the savior of Delaware State University. We would not have reached this standing that we have now as a thriving, one of the top HBCUs in the country. We would have never achieved that if it wasn't for Jerome Holland getting us through that troublesome 1950s period. But he went on beyond Delaware State to do great things. He went on to become president of Hampton Institute, which is now Hampton University. He had a great 10-year tenure there, did some wonderful things for that institution. He went on, President Richard Nixon appointed him to be the ambassador for Sweden. He did that for a couple years, first time as an African American in that particular embassy position in Sweden. He went on to become the first African American to sit on the board of the U.S. Stock Exchange. And he also sat on the board of 9 other major corporations like General Electric. There's just a whole lot of different boards. And I'm sure he was the first black on some of those boards, if not all of them. He became the chairman of the board of directors of the American Red Cross. He also sat on the boards of the National Urban League, on the MIT, Massachusetts Technical Institute of Technology, and a few other things. He really made his, we talk about making our mark on the world. Jerome Holland made his mark on the world. And we think he is a figure that, he died in 1985, and a lot of time has passed since his death, and we think time has kind of obscured, his accomplishments. I mean, he had a number of African American firsts. So we're trying to raise awareness about Jerome Holland, not just among our Delaware State University community, but in the nation right now, because we think his story is an important story to tell.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Holmes, and thank you for bringing me on the show as a guest and giving us all that wonderful information on the life and the legacy of Dr. Jerome Holland.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for doing this for me.
Oh, no problem. Anytime. Well, I'm Leah Selena, and thank you all for watching another segment of DSU Inside Perspective.